We're talking about Mr. John Fischer today.
Wow, I was just mentioning his name a short time ago. I said I haven't really heard much from him since early 80s. What about him? Why did you choose him?
I was surprised to find out in my little recent research of Jesus music that he actually had a release that came out a little bit even before Larry Norman's release that a lot of people say was kind of the beginning of Jesus music. Just mere months before Larry put out his Upon the Rock, John actually did something his own that was more toward the vein of Jesus music. At that point, it was more or less known as maybe Christian music, kind of, I guess you might call it folk music with Christian lyrics kind of thing, because it was more toward that vein, I guess, of genre at that point.
Yeah, I found that most Christian music from that period was rather folky.
Yeah, a little more guitar-based and a little more, I guess you might call it simple produced, that kind of thing. And you and I have talked about this before. There was more simpler words and just kind of easy to sing along to and those kind of things.
Well, this song is a good example of that.
It sure is, and that's kind of why I picked it. I've been trying to think of ever since I discovered it again on YouTube and some other places recently where I first heard it from, and I can't for the life of me think if I heard his version first or somebody else's version first. I know, of course, he's the one that wrote it, but I just can't think where I first heard it from. But I think you'll like it too. It's kind of toward the praise and worship vein, kind of like we talked about before. And this actually is a special recording because this came about with a bunch of Jesus music musicians and artists coming together. I believe it was around 1997, and just kind of gathering around. This came out along the same time as some CDs and a DVD that is kind of like a documentary, so to speak, of Jesus music called First Love.
Now, it's interesting, when I pulled the song up the other day, it said 1997, and I said, we'll get to the I guess, the reaches of where we go with contemporary music we play. And then I read it and read more and said it was produced in 1974.
Yes, he put the song first out in 74 in his third vinyl release called Still Life. And I guess it's been recorded by lots of different artists, and I think I've seen it on something with the same people that did Music Machine, I think back in the 80s or 70s. But I can't think of the album that was on when it was a remake for them. But he's the original artist for it. And I kind of compared the newer version that we had here from 97, 98 to that earlier 70, and I do like the the live version a little bit better. I was surprised to find out also that this actually had some goings on with other artists. Like I said, with this First Love project, Barry McGuire was there, Second Chapter of Vax. It's quite the stellar lineup of Jesus music musicians that's in that First Love, so people get a chance to either see it on YouTube or find it somewhere in a store. I would invite people to do that. It was also kind of strange when I looked it up. It's got a few different dates on there. I believe it was said it was recorded in 97 with this gathering we talked about, released maybe in 98, but then I saw something else that maybe said it was reissued in 2004.
That to happen, does that mean it's an incredibly popular song, or just happens to be some musicians that like it enough to want to redo it?
I would think it's just something that the public was asked for, and people were kind of looking to hear some of these artists and see what they sounded like nowadays, and kind of just get a chance to kind of remember and have them share their memories about what it was like to be in the booming Christian music scene back then when it was just starting out.
Now, it's interesting because the first song I heard by John Fischer was Dark Horse. That was from 1982. And are you familiar with that song?
I am.
I can sing it to you, but I'd really rather not.
Oh, that's okay.
And it's very different than All Day song. And, I think when we were working together in Christian radio back in the 80s and 90s, Christian concerts had become big deals. You could have an integrated concert with 25,000, 30,000 people there. We remember Carmen when we had 50,000 people in Silverdome. But at the beginning, weren't most of these songs and most of these artists performing just in churches and small groups?
I would think that's kind of where it started, but at the same time, we talked about this before, that a lot of these artists were coming to the scene of Christian music, having done stuff in secular music. And in 72, we talked about Explo 72, and where they really wanted to, once they received Christ in their lives, they wanted to use their talents toward Him. And some of this might put him toward different venues, such as the Christian coffee houses that were big back then. I think that's kind of where Petra got there, started in a Christian coffee house. And it was just kind of a way of evangelism and just kind of being there where the people are and bringing their music to the scene and giving it to God as well.
Can you imagine Petra in a coffee house?
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yes, bizarre.
And they started in the 70s as well.
They played at Pine Knob in North, and it was one of the big music venues. There were thousands of people there. It was just a classic Christian rock concert, great concert. And so to picture them in a coffee house is kind of difficult. How does it hold the music?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do here. While you were talking, I also loaded Dark Horse. So
Oh, nice.
Double shot of John Fischer. First off, highlight the song that you wanted to highlight today, All Day Song. We're going to follow up with Dark Horse.
Nice.
Double shot of John Fischer.
Hey, before we get into that, can I say one more thing about John?
You can say anything you want.
I just happened to notice here on the internet as we were talking, there's some actually words in here of John himself talking about this subject we talked about earlier, with him being maybe the first one to have something that was called Jesus music. And he has a little write-up in here. I can't remember where the source is, but this is him in his own words, apparently. It says, to this day, I still don't know how it happened. I got a phone call from this Catholic recording company, actually. They'd heard I was writing contemporary religious music, and would I send them a tape? I went to record these songs in Chicago. He's talking about the original Jesus music release that we talked about from 1969. And upon graduating from Wheaton College in June of '69, he said that happened. The Catholics in this company there were eager to have something that sounded like folk music, but with Christian lyrics. And kind of entering my own wording in there, but that's how he says it all started. And that original release, I'm trying to think it was called the Cold Cathedral in 1969, and it came out just a few months before Larry Norman's Upon This Rock.
Wow. You know, it's funny with us being involved in music. I did not realize just how far back it went. We have a tendency to. I guess we can get tunnel vision where we look at where we started, we think that's where it started. We forget that it started before that. I mean, I look and I think Christian music started in 1982, not Christian, contemporary Christian music started in 82, 83, but no, it started as far back as 69, possibly
Right.
before that.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's pretty amazing. Well, Steve, the librarian, I love saying that because I think of you as a superhero when I say that. In fact, next time you go out shopping or something, wear a red cape.
I should try that.
No, you may not want to. But thanks, Steve, and I sure appreciate you calling today. You'll be here next week, correct?
I sure will. Thanks so much, Doug.
All right, Steve, and talk to you later.
All right.
Steve, the librarian Ericson with today's CCM Flashback, and it's John Fischer. That's what he's highlighting today. We're going to do a double shot of John Fischer, starting with All Day Song.
Love him in the morning when you see the sun rising. Love him in the evening 'cause he took you through the day. And in the in-between time when you feel the pressure coming, remember that he loves you and he promises to stay. Love him in the morning when you see the sun rising. Love him in the evening 'cause he took you through the day. And in the in-between time when you feel the pressure coming, remember that he loves you and he promises to stay. When you think you gotta worry, 'cause it seems the thing to do, remember he ain't in a hurry. He's always got time for you. So love him in the morning when you see the sun rising. Love him in the evening 'cause he took you through the day. And in the in-between time when you feel the pressure coming, remember that he loves you and he promises to stay with you. Love him in the morning when you see the sun rising. Love him in the evening 'cause he took you through. Whoa. In the in-between time when you feel the pressure coming, remember that he loves you and he promises to stay. Think about it. See the sun rising. Love him in the evening 'cause he took you through the day. And in the in-between time when you feel the pressure coming, remember that he loves you and he promises to stay. Love him in the morning when you see the sun rising. Love him in the evening 'cause he took you through the day. In the in-between time when you feel the pressure coming, remember that he loves you and he promises to stay with you. Love him in the morning when you see the sun rising. Love him in the evening 'cause he took you through the day. Whoa. In the in-between time when you feel the pressure coming, remember that he loves you and he promises to stay.
Single plan.